I've seen it from in a helicopter. The devastation is just unthinkable. I walked through the area and I saw what were homes. I saw playground equipment where children have been, and I think through this tragedy we haven't talked much about the children. But I think about kids that left their home expecting to come back and not being able to, and how challenging that must be to explain to your children or your grandchildren that what they knew as home is gone. But you know, I am hopeful that we are turning the corner. I know that Monday and Tuesday we'll be concerned that the Santa Anas are going to come back, but I am hopeful that it will not be anywhere near the severity that we saw in the beginning of this. But my message to Los Angeles is that after the fires are out definitively, there is no greater priority than getting people back home. And the first step to that are crews that are working tirelessly to lift evacuation orders. But I want to be very clear about this, because the decisions about lifting evacuation orders will be done by public safety officials, and it's going to be based on safety and danger. Yesterday and today, some evacuation orders will be lifted, and I want to thank our firefighters for that. Other zones are going to take longer. There's lots of hazardous waste, and I could see that yesterday. You could see paint cans, you could see batteries from electric vehicles, gas leaks, and more. But the EPA hazard teams are already deployed. As our army of firefighters kills these fires and withdraws, we will be moving in with an army of builders, like the people and equipment that you see here. I know there is so much frustration because when people know that one side of the street, houses might be destroyed, the other side of the street, houses intact, and why can't they get home? This is an unprecedented natural disaster, and it warrants an unprecedented response. We are going to do everything we can to clear the way so that people can get back home. This means that we're going to have to reorganize government around urgency, a common sense and compassion, and we will do everything we can to get Angelenos back home. I've done and will be doing and rolling out next week a series of executive directives to do just that. Working in connection with our city council, many city council members have put forward motions. We're going to be collaborating on that because some of those motions can get done quicker by turning them into executive directives. But I will tell you that this is why I have appointed Steve Soberoff to serve as the Chief Recovery Officer for the City of Los Angeles for Phase 1 of us building back LA Strong. For those of you in Los Angeles that know Steve Soberoff's name is attached to hope, is attached to energy, and it is attached to many, many accomplishments. He will recommend a comprehensive city strategy for rebuilding and for expediting. Expediting is a very important word here. We want to expedite the safe return of residents, businesses, schools, nonprofits, and parks. So, Steve has agreed to give himself to Los Angeles once again. He knows our communities. He knows how to activate City Hall. He's been in City Hall several times, called to duty on different occasions, just as he's called to duty today. No one is better equipped to create our rebuilding plan. And I know, and anyone that knows Steve, knows that he works at warp speed. LA knows Steve, Steve knows LA, and I know Steve. He was the force behind the Staples Center. He built Playa Vista, an entire community from scratch. Moving the space shuttle, I don't know how you did that, but moving the space shuttle to the Science Museum, Steve knows how to lead the most complex city challenges, and he wears his heart on his sleeve. This rebuilding effort is not just about real estate, It's about the center of people's lives. It's about people's hopes and people's dreams. That's what a home is. I know that he will help lead us on a path forward. LA Strong, that's rebuilding LA. We will stand together. We will get this job done. Steve Soboroff.
Thanks, Mayor.
It's all yours.
People in LA are hurting. They're frustrated, like the mayor said. They're confused. They want to know what they can do today. They can't get back in their homes to find the pictures of their loved ones. And a whole lot of people are out of work, as a community has been wiped off the face of the earth. And a community that's about 120 years old. I lived in it. My kids grew up in it for 40 years. But it's the same as every community in Los Angeles. And what we need is, and what I hope people will start with is today, is hope. There is an A to Z for each one of us. And A is today. And we're going to get there step by step. And the city is going to help to the extent it can. And we will have to outsource to the extent it can't. That there's going to be a bus to yes. And if people want to get on the bus with us, get on it. If they want to spend their time throwing embers right now and next Tuesday when it's windy by spending their time on that kind of stuff, just don't get on our bus. But we are going to move forward and recreate a community that if we close our eyes, it's like it's got a great park. It's got a great library. It's got great places of worship. It's got great restaurants. And I'm not talking about the quality of the food or the price points. I'm talking about the people that, I mean, it's emotional to me. The people that work there, that taught my kids how to speak Spanish, that have been there for generations, that now are on the verge of homelessness after working in a community for 40 years. That's why I'm doing this. I want people to feel like we're going to tell them in the next week what they can start doing tomorrow to go to B and then to C. And people will be able to get the plans, permits, the equipment will be ready for them, and they can start building their houses. And I'm thankful, Mayor, for the contacts you've made with the state and with existing administration and the incoming administration about the future of getting the funds to do this, because we have people in this city that care so much about this city that all we need is people to hop on the bus with us.
That's right.
Because we're going to do that, and I'm happy to be involved for all of those people, and I want to see this community go back, because neighborhoods and communities are everything to people. The library, the park, houses of worship. So let's do it.
We will. We will.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take questions? Yes.
Hopping on the bus is fine, but are you going to change some of the mechanisms of the bus that need changing? And would those executive orders include things like changes in construction codes so that homes are more fire resistant, not having as much density so that fires can spread from home to home, cutting back on your, if you want to call it, urban landscape that is there next to the homes, and finally reducing density? The reason you lost a lot of homes up there is they were just huge out. Are those code changes and are those policy changes going to come now before you start issuing plans and permits? Otherwise,
Well, let me just tell you that what we are charging Mr. Soboroff with is developing this plan for rebuilding. We have executive directives that we are going to be issuing next week. We have to take all of that into consideration because we have to build in a way that we can harden the area for fires and make sure that we are a resilient community. Obviously, we need to look at building codes, we need to look at what was done in the past, and we need to come back stronger and build in a better way.
If
Thank
you
you.
have a home that was burnt down, it's a horrible thing. And the idea that you won't be able to rebuild your home, if you want to rebuild your home with the correct materials, although if your house was built out of concrete, in this fire, it would have lasted about an hour longer than it did. This was a this was a God event. But the idea of using this to decrease density, I think people deserve to rebuild their houses. I think people want to get back in there. Now, if they want to try and expand their house beyond a certain amount, that should open up a different way. But we're going to come up with a way for people to pull those permits and to get those inspections and to have that equipment to rebuild their lives. This is not an urban planning exercise.
Right.
This is a saving people's lives and family and the people that work for them and help them exercise.
Yes.
Mayor Bass, Joe Kwan with Spectrum News 1. You just said that you're hopeful that we're turning the corner. So
Yes.
now might be an
I
open
did say
time
that.
to ask this. I've heard from numerous residents, not placing blame on you, but they've been waiting to hear a response about their frustrations. Do you have anything to say to them who continue to be frustrated, not blaming you, but who say they are disappointed in your leadership?
Sure. Next week we will be announcing an investigation. We need to look back at everything that happened. But to me, over the last week, the most important thing was to get past the fires, to make sure that on Monday and Tuesday, we're not facing a danger again. And so I'll be looking forward to that. It will be external. It will not be done internally, although internally we absolutely are looking back at what happened, but moving forward so that we can get our city back on the road to where we were before, and not even where we were before, but how we will be much better.
Mayor Bass, do you plan on having a town hall? Governor Newsom is having one on Sunday, but do you plan on having one?
I plan on having lots of those. I've always done that and will definitely continue to do that. I don't have one scheduled right now.
Mayor Bass, Austin Westfall, Fox
Oh,
11.
oh, go ahead.
Mayor Bass, a question for you. Do you plan on working with the Army Corps of Engineers to build a reservoir in the Sullivan Canyon Flood Control Channel where the watershed ends at the catch basin and the water is discharged
Well, let me
into
just
the ocean?
let me just tell you that what we plan on doing absolutely is working with the Army Corps of Engineers, but not with what you just described. Yes.
Austin Westfall with Fox 11. An AP review found that homes were already burning and escape routes jammed when the Palisades evacuation order came. Did the evacuation order come fast enough?
Well, I think we have a representative here from Fire. Would you like to answer that?
So I don't have the specifics on exactly what time the first evacuation order came out, but what I can say is when an incident first breaks, it takes some time for us to get our first resources on scene, evaluate the situation, look at maps, determine which areas need to be evacuated. Of course, in a fire of this magnitude, and our first on companies that were en route immediately asked for more resources just based on the amount of smoke that was going up into the air. We knew that there was going to be a very large evacuation area. LAPD, our law enforcement partners, were the first members of our department or of our city family to conduct those initial evacuations, and they're on scene very quickly while our firefighters are fighting the fire. You can imagine if you're in the immediate area, whenever a fire starts, you're going to get some indications that there's a fire heading your way, especially during these windy days when we've put out plenty of alerts to warn the public that we have that high fire hazard zones, red flag days, the parking restrictions. Everyone who lives in an area in Los Angeles that's subject to wildfires is well aware of the danger, as far as I could say. So the initial evacuations that have to go out via WIA alert, the wireless emergency alerts, as well as Notify LA and other alert systems, they do take some time to formulate because we have to be very specific on what we're saying. Obviously, those accidental alerts that went out are an indication of why we wouldn't just put a mass alert out to cause the entire county to start panicking. We do have to be very specific, but we do have resources on scene that are evacuating the initial areas. Our law enforcement partners are helping us with that, and then as soon as we can determine what areas need to be evacuated, those wireless emergency alerts and notify LA alerts go out.
Guys, wait a second. We got to move forward so people can get back in their homes and back in the parks and back in their churches. Officer, come here for a second. I was police commissioner for 10 years. Well, my job, thank you for service, sir, was to adjudicate cases. And when you adjudicate a case of something that goes wrong or right, you need information. The worst thing you can do is spend all kinds of time and energy away from making things better in the future than just looking at the past. So I'm not going to get involved in that. I hope they find out everything. But it would take me on every case, 6 or 7 months. I'd get 700 pages of science. I'd get reports. This whole thing about well, if you would have done this, and if you should have done that, and well, it didn't, and we can find out. But if you think that's going to help the people that are frustrated, that are about to be homeless because they lost their jobs, or are looking for a place for their kids to go, that ain't going to help them. That's why she asked me to come on, is to help them and move forward and give them hope. And if I'm not going to provide the adrenaline to this community with these people to and more people that we're going to bring, then I will fail. I'm going to fail.
But we know he is not going to fail. Yes.
Gavin Newsom has said he has a particular martial plan
Yes.
for rebuilding LA. I'm wondering, is that something you guys are working on?
Absolutely, absolutely we are. I met with the governor yesterday for a good hour talking about all that. And so what you will see is you will see the plans, and what he's doing is on a regional basis. We will be working hand in glove together. And in fact, that has already started because the state has taken responsibility for clearing the hazardous waste. All of that is happening right now.
I spoke with Governor Davis today. I've spoken with a lot of people before I decided, to do this, and I'm sure you talked to a lot of people before you asked me. But he's gone through fires, and he said, Steve, think about the victims.
Yes.
Think about the victims.
The families.
This ain't the Steve Soboroff show or the Karen Bass for Mayor show. This is about the victims. And that's what we are doing. That's what we talk about in private.
Right.
We don't talk about anything else. It's about the victims. It's about restoring community, because without community, people are lost. And that's what we're going to focus on. I have a 10-point plan of what I'm going to start on the first day. I'm not going through that today. The mayor and I are going to be walking around in the Palisades, but we're not doing this for picture visibility. We're doing this for completion, because these people are desperate. I heard a lady yesterday with her little girl saying, honey, you're going to go back to school, and it's going to be your same classmates, which I thought was wonderful. And you know what? We are going to be in the car for an hour every morning instead of 7 minutes. So we're going to have so much fun. But the mother was so relieved. That is what we want people to feel starting 15 minutes from now. I'm not the czar. She is the czar. She isn't. She
2 more questions. Yes.
Why isn't this an urban planning exercise? Shouldn't this be an opportunity to rebuild Los Angeles into being more of a fire-resistant city?
Well, we absolutely will be taking that. We want to make sure that when we build, we will build LA back stronger. We will build Palisades back stronger. And of course, we are going to, and it's not just Palisades. We know that there's many other areas. Mandeville Canyon we're concerned about. And so Sylmar, what is going on there. And it's absolutely an opportunity for us to make sure we build back better, which means that we want to have a resilient community. One more question?
Mr. Soboroff, if a homeowner came up to you and said, hey, I lost my home, when realistically will I be able to walk
Are you
through
the
my
one that
front
stole
door.
my phone? Because I got 50 of those messages
Well, what do you
today.
say to them? If we're
Well,
there-
yeah, let me just answer that. And I will tell you, I don't know if you've had an opportunity, but going to the Disaster Recovery Center, I met with people. I met with people there yesterday and the day before. I've talked to people who lost their homes, who were actually ready to rebuild, which I frankly thought was exciting, that they had reached the point where they wanted to do what was needed in order to get back up again. But what we've told them is, especially in terms of the evacuation area, we don't know exactly when it's going to be safe. Well, it is predicted maybe it's another week. It depends on what happens on Tuesday. And so we've asked them to have the patience because we don't want people going back before it is safe. So building anything, even if there hadn't been a fire, you can't say exactly when you will be able to move back into your house.
A Genius Bar reservation system type way where people can know when they're going to be able to go in their house, and they're not going to be, and that we will make it safe for you instead of telling you you can't get in because it's not safe.
Exactly.
And so that's, that is one of the points. It's about the predictability so people can get back into the house, because that's just the first thing.
Right.
You've got to remove the toxic stuff from these houses before the communities can be bulldozed. And look, we're talking about urban planning. This is no time for urban planning exercising. That'll delay it by 15 years. We need people back in their houses. This happened to be, my Palisades friends are going to, if it was going to happen, that it happened in the Palisades, the planning of the Palisades is beautiful. The way the community works is beautiful. You don't need to rethink Pacific Palisades. You need to rebuild Pacific Palisades.
We are going to do everything we can to build LA back stronger, and to get people home so their hopes and their dreams can continue forward. Thank you very much.
Can I just say one thing I'm a little worried about? I'm worried about price gouging. I'm worried about people who have lost hope and say, I'm just going to sell my lot now, my house burnt down. And I urge them, hang on. Because we're going to create a system where they'll be able to re-permit and have a clean lot, and they'll be able to sell it for 10 times more. Don't be gouged now by professionals.
But we don't want them to sell. Thank you very much, everyone.
Joel? There we go. Thank you.